When we think of World War I, images of muddy trenches, barbed wire, and battles in Europe often come to mind. The war that reshaped Europe and toppled empires is remembered mostly for its Western Front horrors. But while Europe struggled in its trenches, a different and equally significant battle was unfolding in the Middle East. A battle that would draw new borders, spark new nations, and ignite tensions that still burn over a century later. The modern Middle East, with all its complex politics and conflicts, was shaped not just by ancient history or colonial ambitions, but directly by the events of World War I. Let us explore the 5 critical ways that World War I created the Middle East we know today. You may find that the echoes of decisions made during that war still define headlines around the world even now. The fall of the Ottoman Empire and the end of an era before World War I. The Ottoman Empire ruled over much of the Middle East. This vast empire stretched from modern-day Turkey across Syria, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, and into parts of the Arabian Peninsula. Though weakened by the early 20th century, the Ottomans still held political and religious authority over millions of people. But World War I would bring their centuries-long reign to a sudden end. The Ottoman Empire sided with Germany and Austria-Hungary, hoping to regain lost power and territory. However, they became a target for the Allied powers, especially Britain and France. After years of brutal campaigns, the empire collapsed under military defeats and internal revolts, such as the Arab Revolt supported by the British. With the Ottoman Empire gone, a power vacuum opened across the region. Former Ottoman territories were now up for grabs. The collapse of this long-standing empire was not just the fall of a government, but the end of a political world order that had lasted for centuries in the Middle East. Here is a striking thought. When empires collapse, it is not only borders that fall but entire ways of life. The death of the Ottoman Empire left millions wondering what kind of future awaited them. The Sykes-Picot Agreement and the betrayal of promises. While the war raged on, Britain and France were secretly drawing up plans for the Middle East's future. In 1916, the Sykes-Picot Agreement was signed in secret between the two powers. This agreement divided the Ottoman lands into British and French zones of influence, regardless of the wishes of the local people. At the same time, Britain had made promises to Arab leaders, suggesting they would support the creation of independent Arab states if the Arabs helped fight the Ottomans. This led to the Arab Revolt, famously associated with T.E. Lawrence, or Lawrence of Arabia. The Arabs fought believing they would gain freedom and sovereignty after the war. But after the fighting ended, the reality was starkly different. Instead of independent nations, the Middle East was carved up into mandates controlled by Britain and France. Syria and Lebanon went to the French, while Iraq, Palestine, and Transjordan were handed to the British. This double dealing bred deep resentment and a sense of betrayal among Arab leaders and their people. It planted the seeds of distrust toward Western powers that would grow stronger over the decades. The birth of new nations under foreign control. As the Ottoman Empire crumbled, new nations began to emerge, but most were not born through independence movements. Instead, they were shaped by foreign powers who often drew borders with little understanding of local tribes, ethnic groups, or religious communities. Iraq was created by merging 3 former Ottoman provinces with very different populations: Sunni Arabs, Shiite Arabs, and Kurds. The British placed a foreign monarch, King Faisal, on the throne and maintained significant control behind the scenes. Iraq's future would be shaped by tensions among its diverse groups, a legacy that still affects the country today. Similarly, the French carved out Lebanon from Greater Syria, partly to create a state with a Christian majority. But this decision ignored the complex sectarian mix within the region and set the stage for future conflicts. Palestine was placed under British mandate, with growing tensions between Jewish immigrants, encouraged by the Balfour Declaration of 1917, and the Arab population who feared losing their land and rights. Here is a question worth asking. What happens when borders are drawn not by the people who live there, but by distant powers chasing their own interests? The answer is often conflict, mistrust, and instability that lasts for generations. The rise of nationalist movements and resistance. The decisions made during and after World War I did not go unchallenged. Across the Middle East, nationalist movements began to rise. These movements demanded self-rule, independence, and an end to foreign control. In many cases, they were met with harsh resistance from colonial powers. In Egypt, nationalist protests erupted against British rule, leading to violent crackdowns and a partial independence that left Britain still controlling much of the country's affairs. In Iraq, a massive revolt in 1920 forced the British to rethink their direct rule, though they still held power through local allies. Syria saw revolts against the French mandate, most notably the Great Syrian Revolt of 1925. Though brutally suppressed, these uprisings became symbols of resistance and helped foster a strong sense of national identity. These nationalist movements would continue to grow throughout the 20th century, fueling revolutions, coups, and independence struggles. The roots of modern Arab nationalism, and even modern Islamist movements, can often be traced back to this post-war period. Think about this. When people are denied a voice in their own future, history shows that resistance is never far behind. The rise of nationalist movements in the Middle East was not just inevitable, it was the natural response to foreign domination. Lasting conflicts and unresolved tensions. Perhaps the most significant legacy of World War I in the Middle East is the web of conflicts and unresolved tensions it left behind. Many of the region's most enduring issues trace directly back to decisions made during and after the war. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which remains one of the most difficult and painful disputes in the world, has its roots in the British Mandate period and the promises made in the Balfour Declaration. Competing national aspirations, mixed with outside interference, created a situation where lasting peace has proved elusive. The artificial borders drawn in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere created states where sectarian and ethnic divisions often ran deep beneath the surface. In many cases, strongman leaders emerged to hold these nations together, but when those leaders fell, the divisions re-emerged with devastating results. The distrust between the Arab world and Western powers also deepened, fueled by memories of broken promises and foreign control. This mistrust continues to shape diplomatic relations, alliances, and conflicts in the region to this day. And here is a sobering reality. The decisions of politicians and generals 100 years ago continue to affect the lives of millions today. The legacy of World War I in the Middle East is not history, it is living, breathing reality in the streets of Baghdad, Damascus, Jerusalem, and beyond. World War I may have been fought in the trenches of Europe, but its lasting impact was felt strongly in the deserts, cities, and valleys of the Middle East. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the secret deals of foreign powers, the drawing of new borders, the rise of nationalist resistance, and the outbreak of long-lasting conflicts all combined to create a new political landscape, one that still defines the region today. Understanding how World War I shaped the modern Middle East is not just about looking back at old maps or reading dusty treaties. It is about understanding why conflicts continue, why borders remain contested, and why distrust of foreign intervention runs so deep. The war that ended over a century ago still casts a long shadow over the Middle East, reminding us that the past is never really gone. If you found this look into the real consequences of World War I eye-opening, you will want to watch our next video on the Viking Age. Brutal raiders or civilized explorers. See you there.